Today I'm going to be doing a review on the Wilson Combat Shok-Buff for the 92 FS, M9, and all the little variants, the 92 variants. Now, with this system, it's basically supposed to dampen recoil a little bit and also kind of extend the life of the frame. And the service life on this is estimated to about 5,000 rounds, but I think that's really based on how you shoot it. I tend to shoot pretty fast. I don't really do the 1 round every 2 seconds or 1 round every 10 seconds thing. So I'm going to estimate that it's not really going to last. I'm not really going to be doing a test to see the longevity of this product. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do about 250 rounds, which I think is a typical round count for a lot of people that are shooting these firearms. I don't really have a 40 caliber. It would still work in a 40 caliber, but I'm not really going to be testing an extended amount of rounds through it. But I want to see if there's any damage to this, because this is pretty solid polymer. I've used these on 1911s, and it kind of prevents the slide from being able to reciprocate past the lockup. But with the 92 FS, I actually noticed, and all the other like pistols and clones, you're actually able to bring it back a little bit and do a manual rack. That was not the case for the 1911 unless you pulled really hard, enough strength basically to where you're compressing this thing. So let's go ahead and take this thing out to the range, and we'll go ahead and do a little bit of a test and comparison, see if it dampens recoil, and then see how much of an effect and if there's any markings on this from usage from just 250 rounds rapid fire. Okay, we're out at the range, and I have the 92 FS with the Shok-Buff inside, and it's installed. So anyways, I'll cover installation a little bit later, but I'm going to be shooting steel. This is a Targets USA target. They are based out of Alaska, but you can order it online. This is one of the most versatile target systems. As you can see, you can install it on a T-post, and you can use a hand crank or just a bolt and wrench it down. But this is a kit that I bought, and this is what I'm going to be shooting today. So if you want these, the owner has given me a discount code, Do It Right AK, and I'll put a link in the description below to the website, and put in the discount code, and you can get about 10% off of your order and over $200 free shipping. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into shooting. Okay, I have my Beretta 92 FS loaded with 16 rounds, and I'm going to do, I wouldn't say slow fire, but I'm going to try to get in the camera, to see what the recoil is like, and then I'm going to run another magazine without the Shok-Buff installed, so if you can see any difference in muzzle flip, and I'll also give you an impression that I'm receiving as a shooter, if I'm getting a little bit more shock or less shock, or if it even makes a difference. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so that was 16 rounds, and I'm going to go ahead and load up another 16 rounds, and I'm going to go ahead and take the Shok-Buff out. Okay, so I've removed the Shok-Buff. It's very easy to do, but install and remove. And now I'm going to go ahead and, before I do my rapid fire, I'm going to go ahead and test the recoil and sensation, see about follow-up shots without it. See if there's any difference. Okay, so 16 rounds in, I do see a difference. I was focusing on feeling the recoil and also noticing if it was keeping my shots on target a little bit better, if it was going down, if I had less effort and less involvement in recoil control. And I did notice that using the Shok-Buff, there was actually a good amount of difference in bringing the gun back on target. It was almost effortless. And also, I wasn't getting as much shock. I didn't see that the gun was flipping as much. Now, one of the features of this is it's dampening the recoil to the frame. That actually is what you're feeling, is you're feeling the vibration of the impact going all the way into the hand, because it's got to go somewhere. So you're going to feel that force. Now, this Shok-Buff, as the name states, it's taken away a bit of the shock. So now I'm going to go ahead and just do a bunch of rapid fire with this Shok-Buff in, and so far it's pretty fun, so I'm gonna have fun. Last mag. Alright, so that's it. This barrel's pretty hot. Now remember that this thing is contacting the barrel and it's basically like a saddle, so of course I'm going to show you that, but it's making contact with the barrel the whole time, so it's kind of riding it a bit. So I noticed that the sensation of it dampening the recoil kind of went down with shooting it and getting this thing really hot, because I slammed 250 rounds through this gun and I had to make a couple of reloads. Of course I only have enough to shove 175 rounds through this gun, so I had to go ahead and reload a couple mags. But I tried to make it up with some rapid fire, as you probably saw, like really rapid fire, and it held pretty well, except for the fact that it didn't really help with me not doing my job. So anyways, let's go ahead and get indoors, show you how to install and take it apart, or take it off, and we'll look at the wear. Okay, so I just came back from the range and we're going to go ahead and break this down and see what the results are. So, take out the magazine, that'll make it a little easier. Okay, so, kind of dirty, but no big deal. And as you can see, the Shok-Buff is in here, and basically it fits up against the frame in the front here. And there you go, you can see that when it impacts, it creates a little bit of damage when the slide impacts, at least. Shok-Buff is basically there to prevent that as much as possible. So, basically, you can put this on without, you know, having to take the spring off or anything like that, and that's as easy as it is. Now let's do a close-up. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to do rapid fire is that typically heat and friction, and it's slamming up against the frame. As you can see here, there was actually a little bit of quote-unquote damage. Sorry, I just fogged up my lens a little bit. It was kind of starting to rain out there. But anyways, that's basically it. It doesn't seem to be too damaged. It's pretty solid polymer, as I said, but this was the part that was up against the slide. So you can see the slide indented right here, but it was pretty solid up against the frame. And I'm going to go ahead and let this thing dry out a little bit. Okay, so this is a little bit better, and as you can see, as I said, the slide made this little indent right here, and it was going back with a good bit of force. So the ammunition I was using was 124 grain Blazer brass. So it's not the hottest stuff out there. I would typically do NATO ammo and probably my own reloads, because they're pretty loaded pretty hot. And again, the lens is trying to dry up or fog up again, so I'll go ahead and put this thing back together. Now, my impressions of this is basically it does what it's advertised to do. It lowers the recoil a bit. It seemed to take the heat pretty well. And if you're going to be slamming 500 rounds, which I highly doubt, if you're going to be slamming 500 rounds to do an endurance test, obviously using a Shok-Buff is not really going to give you good results for an endurance test on the platform. But as you can see, it does pretty well at, I think it did pretty well at taking away some of the harsh feeling of shooting. So I was actually quite impressed with the product. Now, they're actually pretty inexpensive. It's not really that bad of an upgrade to get. It does extend the life. It doesn't prevent you from being able to rack the slide. It doesn't really interfere with anything. On 1911s, on the other hand, I noticed that it did kind of prevent you from being able to rack the slide. So this is what it comes in. It's supposed to last about 5,000 rounds, according to some sources, but it's pretty inexpensive, and I think if it extends the frame of like an M9 or what have you, then it's actually a pretty worthy buy. Maybe you have a police trade-in 92 or maybe a 1911, and this would probably help save the frame a little bit because, you know, over time, metal frames are going to get a good amount of shock, but the heat and the rapid fire didn't seem to mess it up too bad. Now, I am going to do a long-term update on this after a couple thousand rounds, and I'm going to swap it between different firearms and give you an updated report on that. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Go ahead and leave your let me know what you think in the comments below, and also check out targetsusa.com. Use my discount code and get yourself some fun steel to shoot.